Hey folks, what's happening? Let me just adjust one thing here. How's everybody today? Can you hear me okay? I'm alive and well this weekend and happy to see all you guys. What's happening, dudes? Can you hear me okay? I hope you can see me and everything. Good morning, everybody. Sunday morning. This Sunday I'm a little bit rough around the throat. I stayed out a little bit later than I should last night with some friends, and frankly, I'm recovering. Let's just say. But good morning to everybody. Nice to see everybody here this morning. I'm always looking forward to seeing you guys on Sundays, checking in with my friends out there, seeing what's new, and I'm impressed by you guys when you start the chatter in the waiting area. And there was a lot of good comments and questions this morning. I was keeping my eye on those, so hopefully I'll be able to answer some of your questions and get into it right away. Jack says everything's loud and clear. Thank you for that, Jack. I'm using my lapel mic this morning. Usually I have a standard mic on the desk, but sometimes it gets in the way. And this is, I can move around. I can move around a little bit more and get away from the desk, and you guys can still hear me. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining the Addicted to Gear Live Sunday show. This is show 261, and we do this every Sunday, or we try to do this every Sunday. So if you're new today and you're just jumping in for the first time, welcome. We welcome all the newcomers. As usual, we mention that everybody has the equal right to talk and ask questions, and don't be shy to jump in on the chat, okay? If you're new, please subscribe, otherwise you won't be able to chat. And let's get started. What a crazy week it's been this week. I think everybody knows that at this point, unfortunately, Ozzy Osbourne has passed away. Ozzy has left the building, taken his final bow, and I was sad to hear it, man. You know, so Ozzy's been there for so many years. He's been a staple, an icon of rock and roll, metal, all that good stuff. And we're basically all, I think, in a little bit of a state of shock. I think, I'm just looking at the comments here. Somebody says I have the wrong date. You're actually right. I put July 28th. It's actually the 27th today. My mistake. I stand corrected. Thank you for that profile. Somebody's paying attention. Yeah, so basically I was a little disappointed to hear that. You know, poor Ozzy. Like, we were all talking about it about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, when he had his final concert, and we all were kind of commenting on how that went down. And, you know, it didn't look like he had too much time, but I don't think anybody expected him to go this quick. So it is what it is. You know, time moves on. And as the Rolling Stones lyric says, time waits for no one. So yeah, poor Ozzy, may he rest in peace. He's finally reunited with Randy Rhoads. They're probably already jamming in the great gig in the sky, so to speak. So anyways, so that went down. And we also lost Chuck Mangione. I don't know if you guys remember Chuck Mangione. I think he was he became more of a household name, I think, when he did some of those Memorex commercials back in the day. This is a long time ago. So I don't know if any of you listen to that kind of music, but Chuck has also been around for a long time, an amazing player as well, but more, you know, in a different realm, completely different from heavy metal or rock and roll. Hulk Hogan. The amazing Hulk Hogan. He's gone too. What the heck's going on this week, man? So, Hulk Hogan has been another person that's been around for my whole life as a kid. I wasn't really into wrestling or anything like that, but I had a lot of friends that were. And, Hulk Hogan was the man. He was all over. And finally, I don't know if you heard this news, but this is also pretty sad. We lost Mr. Blonde. Do you know who I'm talking about, guys? Mr. Blonde? Any of you Reservoir Dog fans here? Such a great movie, by the way. Michael Madison, the actor that played the character Mr. Blonde in Reservoir Dogs, also passed away. He was rather young. So that was unfortunate, but this is why I always say, guys, you have to enjoy your time, play your gear, enjoy your music, and don't sweat the small stuff. That stuff's not important. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it. We have, I don't know how many people are already here. Let me just take a quick look. We have like 34 people here. I'm sure some other people will trickle in. Please help me out with some thumbs up if you're so inclined and you're close to that button. Please hit it. It does help us. And let's jump right into the questions, guys. As per usual, if you have a question for me, put a little question mark, all right, at the very beginning of it, so I know it's intended for me. Dan says, stuck in the middle with you. Yes, that scene was pretty crazy, Dan. I don't know if you remember, but that's the scene where Mr. Blonde cuts off the poor fellow's ear and does that dance, and they're playing Stuck in the Middle with You during that entire scene. Pretty crazy stuff, especially for back in the day, right? But I love that movie. It's a great movie. If you haven't watched it, Reservoir Dogs should definitely be on your list. That whole, I think the part of that scene that was funny and probably the most disturbing is when he's holding up the ear that he just cut off full of blood, hands full of blood, and he's singing into the ear like a microphone. Crazy stuff. I don't know if I should be laughing at that, but it's pretty demented, I gotta say. Okay, so Dan says, hold still, stop squirming, Mr. Blonde. Yeah. Michael Madison, yeah, rest in peace. All right, so let's talk about what's been going on in the world of music. And I mentioned in the chat before we started, if you guys wanted to guess what guitar I would be holding here today. I don't know if some of you tried to guess. Let me see. I'm scrolling back here. I'm going to show you that in a second. I think you can already see what guitar it is, but maybe you still don't know which one it is here. Profile Productions had a question early on. He says, I want to put a piezo on a Les Paul. How would you go about it? Well, that's an excellent, tough question for us this morning, Profile. We're getting right into the nitty-gritty. You're making my brain hurt so early in the morning with these kinds of technical questions. First of all, let me say I've never actually done that. Never made that modification on any of my guitars. It is doable, though. And I think mainly the easiest way to do it is to get a drop-in replacement. Like, don't try to modify your bridge to be able to put in a piezo. It's too complicated. It's probably not going to work out. But there's a lot of companies that sell drop-in replacement bridge systems. I think Graphtech makes one. I think it's called the Ghost. I don't know if you're familiar with that or if you looked at it. Fishman makes one as well. I think it's called the Power Bridge. And it's basically, these are direct replacements for two-nomatic bridges on a Les Paul. So you can actually just buy one of these, put them in, and you're going to be good to go. Just figure out which one is your favorite, maybe which one is in your price range. That would probably be the easiest way to do it. That's how I would do it. But if anybody here has any other suggestions, let us know. I'm not a professional luthier or anything like that. I've just been working on my guitars for a long time. So there's a lot of stuff that I've tried, but that hasn't been a mod that I've considered doing on my guitars. But maybe it's something that I should look into eventually. Oh, and Gene mentions George Koymans, the guitarist who found fame with a golden earring and their 1973 hit Radar Love, died July 23rd at age 77. I forgot about him, but you're right. That was another casualty this week. Man, I'm telling you, they're dropping like flies. What the heck? David says every time he hears the Stuck in the Middle with You song, he does that little shuffle dance. You know that little shuffle dance in the movie, David, was totally improvised. A friend of mine met Michael and had that conversation with him. And it was basically Tarantino asked him to dance. And Michael's like, I don't know how to dance, you know. So he's like, well, just improvise something, you know. And he basically did one take. And that was the take that ended up in the movie with the little shuffle dance. Became quite famous or infamous. Paul says the Chuck Mangione band had nearly all Canadians. I didn't know that. Little tidbits. See, I'm learning stuff from you guys. Jack says, Tony, we got to face it, we're getting old. Yeah, unfortunately, Jack, every day, every minute. That's correct. And remember, Jack, nobody gets an encore, so make it count. So good morning, Green Rumor. Nice to see you, Presley. Good morning. I didn't say good morning to you guys, so I'll just jump in and say good morning here and there. MFN had a question. He says, hi, Tony. I'll put it on the screen so you guys can read it at the same time as me. I have an ongoing problem with bends. When I release the bends, my fingers sometimes pluck the adjacent string. I think it's the ridges in my fingers. Technique recommendations to solve. I think when you're doing the bends, well, okay, first of all, before I answer that question, because you're going to see it now, I might as well show you the guitar. Actually, let me come back to your question in 1 second, MFN. I just want to see if anybody actually guessed what guitar I have here today. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. There's just too many things going by here in the comments. And I see some other questions that I'll get to as well. Okay, so don't worry, I won't miss your questions. I'll scroll on back in a second. So Jack says, Vinny's World, I guess the SG last week. What you be right? Vinny's World, I guess the SG last week. What you be right? Okay. Let's see here. So Gene said the Edwards. That's a good guess, Gene. And you're close. You're pretty close. Anybody else guess? Guess not. Okay, Vinny says, my guess is the SG. Gospel of Mark says, put the SG down. Kushman says Les Paul, but he didn't say which Les Paul. Cool Tune says Tokai, also a good guess. Davis Music says Tony will be playing his Black Frankenstrat, laying down some Randy Rhoads. Okay. All right. And by the way, Mark, I don't have a cold. I was just out late last night. Maybe drank too much wine. But it's all good. It's all good. Okay, so I'll tell you which guitar it is. You guys are close with the, Les Paul guesses, Tokais, and all that kind of stuff. But it's not it. It's not it, guys. This is the Bacchus. This is the Bacchus Live. They call it the Live Live Road model. Kind of a weird name. It's from the Universe line of guitars. Really cool guitar. Les Paul style. By the way, Bacchus makes really solid guitars. I like them a lot. And the reason why I particularly like this one, I like the top. Has a nice top to it, nice color. And this one's different from my other Les Pauls. This one's more of a Jimmy Page style guitar. And I call it a Jimmy Page style guitar because the neck is thin on this one. It's not as thick as all my other guitars. Jimmy Page's #1 was shaved down, so it was actually thinner. And this one feels like that. So this is why I like it. It's a little bit more sensitive overall to conditions like humidity and stuff because the neck is thin. So I find that I have to like tune it more often. It tends to move a little bit more than some of my other guitars, but it really plays nicely. And I changed out the pickups in this guitar a while back. I've had this guitar for, I'm going to say, well over 7-8 years now. And these pickups that I put in here, they're called Anthem pickups. I did a review on this if you go back into my videos when I put them in there originally about 6 years ago. Time flies, man. It's already been 6 years. So it feels like yesterday. The Anthem pickups are made by Porter. And I think we've had Porter here, and they jump in from time to time as well. I don't know if they're here today. But they make some really nice pickups overall. And they still sell these ones. They're called the Anthems. And if I'm not mistaken, I think on their website, yeah, I can show you them, give you a little bit more detail on them. Give me a sec, I'll share my screen here. There you go. So you can see those. And you just put myself a little smaller there. So the Anthem pickups, this is the Porter website. And they're not cheap, guys, by the way. Okay, if you buy the set, it's $445 Canadian. And I went with the raw nickel covers. I love the raw nickel. If I have a choice, I'll grab the raw nickel all the time. And so these pickups they have sound samples there, and they have a really nice bite to them, and I think it's the Alnico 4 magnets that they use in there. They really they sound really nice. There's my video. See, I know this guy. If anybody wants to watch that video, all you got to do is click on that link there. They still have it up there. That's cool. All right. So yeah, like I said, $400, but you're getting some really nice pickups. So there's that. Okay, let me get off this thing here. Let me just go back to my... All right. So let's see here. Poland says dumb. Okay, what's dumb, Poland? Curious. Okay, so I see the question here. I see, okay. Poland says, do you think digital technology still has room to grow or is reached its peak? Dumb question. No, man, it's not reached its peak at all. Not at all, dude. We're only starting. We're only starting, man. Listen, with all the technology that's coming out now, every year things get better. And, you know, I've been thinking about this for a while. You know, the biggest leap in technology that we've seen in our history, I think, is when they came out with the transistor. That was huge. You know, transistors changed a lot of things. We went from huge computers that would fit in a room to something that fits in your pocket now. I mean, you know, if somebody back in the 40s would, you know, have a phone in their hand today, they think it's from outer space, right? the stuff that you can do, the computing power in a little device that you put in your pocket and can use as a phone and can text and as a camera, take photos, videos, and all kinds of, communicate, and artificial intelligence. Well, artificial intelligence is going to be the next step, the next huge step. I mean, it's already here and it's moving extremely fast. And when, that technology is going to mean a lot of things. It's going to mean, programs are going to be easier to write. Unfortunately, a lot of programmers are going to be out of work. But, you can already, without even knowing how to program, you can use AI to write yourself a program. And it takes minutes as opposed to hours or days or weeks. So, this is already happening right now. So, software is going to get better, technology is going to get better, algorithms are going to get better, and we're going to see it trickle into everything in our life. And that includes probably music. It's going to change music. It's going to change the tools that we use to make music. So has it reached its peak? No, man, not at all. Not at all. It's going to keep moving. Hang on to your hats, man, because in the next 10 years, things are going to change big time. Dan says, I have 6 minutes until I buy a Telecaster. What do you mean, Dan? What's going on? Why is there a countdown timer for you to buy a Telecaster? What's going on, Dan? Talk to us. I think we lost Dan. Well, he's going to come back, I hope. Dan, if you're there, talk to us, dude. What's going on? All right. Dan says minty fresh hits, he says. So he's playing around with some interesting recipes I can see. Steven says VLSI was a huge leap as well. That's why we can have so much versatility in multi-effects units. Look, I did a review this week. Well, this week I didn't even put it out yet. Oops, sorry. Anyways, I did a review of another multi-effects unit this week. The Sonic Cake, the Matri Box 2, which is a cool unit. And before that, I had the little Valiton, the GP5, which is tiny. It's like a mini pedal. If you guys haven't seen those videos, check them out. And I have another one coming out tomorrow, which is also a mini multi-effects unit. It's the greatest time ever to be a musician, or to be a musician like me, like a hack-around musician, I guess you can call me. Because you have so many toys to play with, and they're getting better, they're getting less expensive, and they have more features built into them. So, we didn't have this, and back in the day, I couldn't fit all my effects into one pedal. I had to buy multiples, multiple cables, multiple jacks, inputs, noise, issues, interference. Now, one little pedal does it all, and it's the price of a tuner, So for me, this opens up a world of possibilities, and it's great. I'm not complaining at all. If there's anything to complain about, guys, it's probably like option paralysis. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to buy because there's stuff coming out every single day. Vinny, the Sonic Cake is not extremely small. I mean, it's smaller. It's about this big. But it's a nice unit. It can do a lot. Rob says, I hope you're standing at the door. Rob, I don't know what you're talking about, man. What do you mean? Sorry, I'm trying to follow what's going on here. I know there's a couple of things happening at the same time. Sorry, guys, I jump around and I trying to catch up with you guys here. Okay, so let me go down and look at the questions that were actually meant for me, the ones with the little question marks here. Vinny asks, did you see the new Behringer pedal? Which one, Vinny? There was a few that came out recently. Is there any of those, or did they come out with another one now? Refresh my memory if you don't mind. Okay, I'm just scrolling here. Mark says, well, Dan says, musician's friend has a couple nice player Telecasters on sale. I'm guessing hard. I see. So this is why you're like 6 minutes away from buying a Telecaster. Is that it? Because they have them on sale. You can't go wrong with Telecasters, Dan. Which one are you looking at? Mark says, I'm out the SG down, grab the Soulfire. I'm going to post this up here. I out the SG down, I grab the Soulfire, now I may grab the Jazzmaster. So Mark is alternating between different guitars today. It's nice to have the option to do that, Mark, just to keep things fresh. And he says, good morning all, sitting on the couch with my Soulfire. Nice guitar. I remember when you sent me pictures on that one. I'm glad you're still enjoying it, Mark. And don't forget, guys, there is a poll question today. So if you haven't seen it, go into the community section. Cast your vote, because we'll be looking at that in a little while. I haven't played the Black Franken Strat in a while, Davis. It's not on my rack behind me. It's not on normal rotation. But I do grab it from time to time for sure. So Vinny says, did you see the Spinal Tap trailer? Yes, Vinny, I did. I'm looking forward to that, man. It looks great. It looks really, really funny. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be out in the fall, if I'm not mistaken. Looks good. I mean, it's good timing for them to come out with something like that. You know, we're talking about old timers passing away and all this kind of stuff, which is, it fits right into what that movie is going to be talking about, right? How many here have never seen the original, the first one? If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's dated, you know, it's a little dated. It's a mockumentary kind of thing. It's like a fake documentary on the band. And it's pretty good. So I would say watch the first one before you watch the new one. Or watch them back to back even. That's something I would prefer watching. You know, if I had a choice and I had to watch something like Spinal Tap 2 or the new Superman movie that just came out, I'd rather watch the Spinal Tap 2. Dan says, I used to sneak into Gap Mangione shows as an underage teen, he says. Oh yeah, sorry. Sorry. Thank you, Kushman. Man, I'm telling you, I get distracted by shiny things. Yes, sorry. Yes, we did have a question there. I forgot about that question. All right, keep me on track, Kushman. Glad you're paying attention too. So about the bends. So yeah, I understand what you're saying, or I kind of understand what you're saying. So you bend, but your fingers touch the other strings when you're bending. So okay, there could be a couple things happening there. You mentioned technique. Obviously, technique could be one. Could also be that your guitar is not actually set up properly. You know, if your strings are too high off the fretboard, then there's a lot of play in there. So when you're bending your string, sometimes your finger will actually slide under the other string because it's too high. So I don't know if that's the case, but that's the first thing I would look at, just to make sure the height of your strings off your fretboard is not too high. Because when that happens, you can get noise. Because generally when you bend the string, you're getting close to the next string. But if you bend a lot, really, excessively, you'll start bending the string next to the first one. And if your fingers slide underneath, then when you let go, you kind of make noise. That's the first thing. Second thing is, it's always a good idea when you're bending to keep your palm of your hand here on your strings to kind of mute the upper strings. So that while you're bending, if you accidentally hit any of the other strings, they're muted. Or there's a double bends, right? So you see, if I try to do a double bend, I am hitting this string above. You can hear it. Because I'm not muting with my palm. It will sound different. So I would try doing that kind of stuff, doing those things first, and trying to see if any of those can resolve your problem there. I think they probably would. So Paul says the Behringer, the BM ring modulator is the newest, not yet released Behringer product. I did see that. I saw people talking about it, and I did see it mentioned. It's not a pedal that I'm particularly interested in getting from Behringer. And actually, at first, I got drawn into the hype, and I thought I would probably end up getting one of those new Behringer pedals. I was interested in the fuzz, then I was interested in a couple of the other ones. I ended up buying 0 of them. I think the hype around the Klon turned me off. And I get like that for some reason. I don't know why. It just, it's like when, if you guys remember when Titanic came out, the movie Titanic, everybody and their sister went to watch it. It was like, everybody was talking about it. It had created a huge buzz. I didn't want to watch that movie. I wanted to watch that movie even less because of the buzz. And I only watched it many years after the fact, when everything kind of died down. I don't like getting drawn in just because of the excitement and the hype. So I kind of waited on the Behringer stuff, and now it's like, I'm not really that enticed. I don't know how many of you got one of those Behringer pedals. I know somebody bought one of the fuzzes here. I remember we were talking about that, but I don't know if anybody bought anything else. Yeah, so anyways, it is what it is. I'm not knocking it. If you got it, great. And like I said, I was curious about that Fuzzbender pedal, but I didn't actually pull the trigger on it yet. So NFM says, thanks, I'll look into it. Now that you mentioned it, does feel like my fingers are getting under the other strings. Yeah, that's going to be something you're going to want to fix right away. Make sure the action is not too high. It's very critical. That's the first thing I adjust on all the guitars I buy. I don't like it when my fingers slide underneath the other strings. Shane says, took Rose like 20 minutes to find a bloody axe. And the movie was longer than the cruise. It's true. That is true. All right, so let's see. Did I miss any other questions, guys? If I did, please just copy and paste it again. I'll be happy to answer all those questions. Vinny says, all the new movies I'm looking forward are sequels of old movies, Spinal Tap, Naked Gun, Spaceballs. I saw the Naked Gun trailer, Vinny. It didn't look good. It didn't look good. And Spaceballs I haven't actually seen, so I don't know what that's about. But unfortunately, Hollywood is running out of ideas, guys. I mean, everything is either a sequel or, an extended superhero movie, like version 5, version 6, another Batman, another Superman, another Spider-Man. I'm getting fed up of all those movies. they've got to come up with something new. They got to be willing to take a risk. So, yeah. All right. Should we look at the poll question before we jump into other things, or should we talk about some other stuff first? I'm not really sure. What do you guys want to do? I'll leave it up to you guys. There's a few cool other pedals and devices that are coming out that I wanted to talk about since I have it on my radar here. I know that Boss is also coming out with a new pedal called the Rotary Ensemble RT2. Has anybody seen that? They come out with cool stuff from time to time. Not something, I'm not big on rotary sounds. Like, I don't really feel like I need some rotary sounds. But they are coming out with it. I don't know how much it's going to cost. It basically, I think they're just getting into a smaller form factor. I think they're taking the RT20 and they're putting into like a Stomp format. So you get all those cool speaker rotary sounds in a smaller package type of thing, smaller box. So some people might like that. I like having smaller pedals on my board. I try to avoid the bigger ones now. So if I have no choice and it's really like a really cool pedal and I really want that pedal, and because I can't get it in any other format, I'll put it on my board if it's bigger. But I prefer to go with the smaller ones when I can. Jack wants me to look at the poll question, and Gene too says poll question. All right, we can do that. We'll jump back into the questions. Alex2112 says, Tony, have you talked about your new Marshall yet? Sorry, I'm late. Yeah, Alex, the new Marshall. Yes, I did talk about it. I talked about it a couple of times. There's actually a video on that. I talked about how I came across the actual amp. And good news, guys. So if you go into the original video, Brian Greenway left a comment on my video. And he actually contacted me by text. And he said, yeah, he'd love to be on the show. So I'm happy. Brian Greenway, by the way, if you guys are not, you don't know who that is, that's Brian Greenway from April Wine. And so he's going to be on the show at some point. I don't really know when, because he said, he's basically on the road right now. And I don't know where he is right now. Let me just see here. I know he's touring, so I don't know how long it's going to take for him to find a slot where he can actually be on the show. But let's see here. I'm on the aprilwine.ca website right now just to see where they are. Let's see. So the last concert was July 26th, which was yesterday. And he was in Massachusetts, Falmouth, Massachusetts. So they played yesterday. So the upcoming show, the next show, is August 2nd. So in a couple of days. And August 9th, August 22nd. So it might be a while, guys. I don't really know. But he promised he'd be on the show. And I told him, hey, man, just tell me when. We'll make it work. So we'll see. I'm holding him to his word. So if you guys are April Wine fans, don't miss out on that show. I'll try and announce it ahead of time as soon as I know. Then you can actually, get your questions in order if you'd like to ask him anything. I got a bunch of questions I'd like to ask him. But I told him if he comes on the show, we're going to be talking gear most of the time. So we'll see. Dan says, how goes the relationship with the Studio Classic? Doesn't sound like 20 watts overdriven, does it? It's loud, man. It's loud. I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, the thing I like most about the amp is you don't really need pedals with it. You can basically just plug it in and go. If you want to get more gain, if it's not enough gain for whatever reason, you can just, plug in a little booster pedal or something like that in front of it. But other than that, you don't really need anything. Besides perhaps earplugs, because it gets loud. Okay, so let's look at the poll question, because we were headed that way. And then we'll come back to some more questions for you guys. Let me just go back to the actual section here and find it. Okay, so the poll question today, guys, was what would make you happier? Would it be finding your dream amp or your dream guitar? So think about that for a while. Put in your comments. I want to hear your comments here. And we'll look at the results of the poll question. 219 votes. And I was thinking about that myself the other day, and it's not an easy question because, you kind of need one to enjoy the other. So it's like if you buy your dream guitar, you will then obviously want to have a pretty good amplifier to play through it. Now, if you have a dream amplifier, you still want to have a pretty good guitar. So it's kind of hard to choose one over the other, It's like saying you have a good stereo system. What do you prefer having? Really good speakers or a really good amplifier? Well, you need both, really, to finish like the recipe, right? So I don't know what you guys think, but I want to hear what your logic is behind answering that question. So we'll look at the answer right now, and 58% of you would prefer to have your dream guitar. 58% over 24% who said my dream amp. So the guitar wins over the amp. Now, I kind of understand why people might be saying that, because like we mentioned earlier today, like if you have a really good guitar, you don't really need to go out and buy yourself a Dumble, for example, or a Soldano or a vintage Marshall, because today there are so many pedals and products and different things that will simulate those sounds. So you don't necessarily have to drop, $100,000 on an amplifier to get close to that dream sound that you want, right? But the guitar is the main, like it's the first step in the chain, right? So if you have a really good guitar, you'll enjoy playing it, and then you could, figure out the rest of the sound. So I kind of understand that, and that's kind of how I look at it. Obviously, it is better to have both if you can afford it, and if you're lucky enough to find your dream guitar and your dream amp, that would be fantastic. And 18% of you said, I already found both, so I'm good. So that's fantastic. 18% of you are happy campers. I don't know if I can consider myself, finding my dream amp. I mean, do I even have a dream amp? Look, the amps I have here are the amps that I've been wanting to have and own for a long time. I don't think I'm necessarily gassing over anything really when it comes to amps at this point, because although, a nice original JTM 45 would be nice, the amps I have here are really good, and they get me into those tones anyway. So JTM 45 is a great amplifier that I would love to own, an original one, but at the same time, it's a one-trick pony. And today, there's so many other amps and so many great new technologies that they're using to go beyond that. So do you want to limit yourself and just buy an amp because it's a collector's item? It's like somebody who wants a Rolex. They want to buy a Rolex because it's Rolex, and they don't mind dropping, $20,000, $30,000 on a watch, Or you can get an Apple Watch that, for $300-400 does more than a Rolex does, But it's not a Rolex. Same idea. So let me see what the comments are. There are a couple of comments here. And so Danops says, bought my dream guitar, a Charvel Model 2 LE in 1986 with a Kahler. And my 81 SG pretty much checks all the boxes for me. Amps as well as pedals tend to just complement the sound. The soul is in the hands more so than the ears, if that makes any sense. I think that makes perfect sense. So, you know, he found his guitars and he's happy. I think that the key here is really to be happy with your gear. Our own very Paul says, I still want a Floyd and on a classic, I'm trying to read this correctly. I still want a Floyd and on a classic first years of Charvel Jackson style before paper thin necks and long pointed horns. The Harley Benton could be the solution. Okay, so I see what you mean. So basically you're looking at, you want a guitar with a Floyd without necessarily being in the 80s style guitars. No pointy headstocks for you. I get you. And the Harley Bentons are good solutions, actually. They're actually fine instruments. Somebody else says you can run an El Cheapo guitar into a nice amp and still come up smelling like roses. The same can't always be said for the other way around. Go for the amp, I say. So that's an interesting perspective. He says the opposite. I don't know. I feel like if you buy yourself a crappy guitar, you're going to be struggling with that guitar, wrestling with that guitar. It might not make you play as well as you can. So yeah, it'll still maybe sound okay coming out the other end, but you probably won't feel like playing that guitar much if you're struggling with it. And someone else here says, Rotor Rose Music says, dream amps are much more obtainable than guitars. I don't know what he means by that. Because like Dumbles are not necessarily obtainable. But like I mentioned earlier, like today you have access to so many sounds available through modeling and different types of multi-effects units and all that kind of stuff that you can pretty much get almost any sound you want. So thanks for taking the time to cast your votes. I'm always intrigued by what you guys are thinking. Steven says, does the Dream Amp come with a roadie? Asking for the older crowd. So I assume, Steven, your Dream Amp is maybe a double 4x12 cabinet with a Marshall or something like that. Something that's not easy to lug around. Always good to have a roadie. Rexo Music says, joined late this morning. The top of your guitar looks like a Les Paul Standard Plus. We featured last Wednesday. Feel like I've been lucky to find several dream guitars, sometimes at not dream guitar prices. So Rex, first of all, it's not a Les Paul. It's a Bacchus. It looks like a Les Paul. Smells like a Les Paul. No, it doesn't actually smell like a Les Paul. It looks like a Les Paul. Kind of feels like one, but not really. And this is why this is still in my collection. I'm not going to sell this guitar now because it plays really nicely and it feels different. And because I have the Anthem pickups in here, I'm just too lazy to take them out. So I'm going to keep them in. And I'm going to keep this guitar. By the way, the sounds you're hearing today is a unit that that I did a review on and will be sharing with you tomorrow. It's going to be coming out. What sound is this? Sorry, this is I'm not showing you what it is because it's going to be a surprise. It's a really cool new multi-effects unit, and I think you're going to like it. So watch that video. It'll come out tomorrow morning. That's when I have it scheduled to come out. So Davis says the studio Vintage 20 Marshall is the best amp I've purchased. You cannot go wrong with it. I agree, man. Me too. I love the Vintage 20. It's a really versatile, really good sounding amplifier. Like I think the V20, the classic and the Vintage, they're not the same amp at all. The Vintage is has much more clean headroom than the classic. The classic breaks up easier. You can't really get like cleans with it, but it's not meant for that. It's meant more for that crunch, the overdrive, that kind of thing. So you can get those sounds quicker and easier. But the Vintage, which is back there, with pedals can do amazing things. You can get really nice cleans. You can cut through the mix. You can get it as dirty as you want. And it's a really responsive amplifier. And at 20 watts, it's still loud, guys. And a lot of people don't think it is. But I'm telling you, it's loud. No issues running it with a band. And it sounds amazing. Never had any issues with it. So if you like that Marshall sound, just grab one of those. You'll be happy, I'm telling you. Nella says a Princeton with a 12-inch speaker and a master volume would be an ideal amp for me. Maybe there's a model already out there, Princeton-like with those features. There is. It's called the Mesa Boogie. If you get the Mesa Boogie Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, you have all of those things. Because the Mesa Boogie amps are based on the Princeton, but they're 100 watts. As opposed to being like the Princeton are maybe like, I don't know, 12, 14 watts, something like that. Totally different beast. But you're basically gonna get a hot rodded Princeton. Warhead Art says my dreams are attainable in OR15 with a 2x12. Orange, yeah. Those are nice amps. Okay, so did I miss any questions? Probably did. I've been talking a little bit too long here. So MFN says Noel Gallagher said the Oasis sound came from nothing more than the shite equipment that they had as poor boys, and it got harder to keep the sound as they got big and had better equipment. It really does boil down to that, if you think about it. Like if you go back to the Beatles, for example, they did some pretty amazing thing with very limited equipment, very limited technology. At those days, they didn't have unlimited tracks. They had, very analog instruments and stuff like that, but they came out with amazing sounds. They weren't necessarily, at some point, they were kind of using the equipment, more than their instruments to get the sound that they wanted. Yostinator says, I have that Ferrari red SoCal in your thumbnail. It's rad. Yeah, it's one of my most recent acquisitions. And that's one of the reasons why I bought it was the Ferrari red color. It just caught my attention, like boom, hit me right there in the face. I wasn't expecting to walk out of the store with that guitar, but I couldn't resist. Plus the black hardware and the red, black and red like that, it's just so sexy. And it sounds great too. Rico says, I asked a question you may have missed. Sorry, Rico. Let me see. I'm going back. Or which question was that? How far back? Let me see here. Here it is. Rico says, I sent you a photo of my Les Paul with a small headstock finish delamination question. How to fill repair. Okay, I have to look at the photo. I don't have it here with me. Let me see. I tend to put my phone on do not disturb mode when I'm doing my shows because otherwise I get phone calls and everything here. Let me see. Yeah, okay, I got it here. Where are the photos? Oh, here we go. Oh, I see. Okay. So it's not really a delamination. It's kind of a little chip, little small chip. You can easily fix that with just a little bit of a paint. Take a little paintbrush, paint that little black missing spot that you have there with some paint. Let it dry. Put in a drop or two of crazy glue on top of that and let it dry. Don't touch it before it's dried. The little bump on the crazy glue, you can take a razor blade at that point and just scrape it flat as much as you can and then buff it back to a gloss with sandpaper, high grit sandpaper or buffing compound. You probably will want to work on the entire neck when you get to the buffing stage, the entire headstock. Otherwise, you're going to see like a shiny spot around where the little chip is, and then it's going to stand out like a sore thumb. But it's very small. You're probably not going to even notice it once you're finished. Shane says, if your Gibson case smells years later, it's proof that the paint is crap. Shane says, I'm definitely not a nitro fan. It's an inferior way to paint. There's a reason the car industry doesn't use nitro. You know, the whole thing about nitro is that, like today, there is better quality paints out there, more, I'm gonna say, resilient type paints that will ding less quickly and I guess provide a more durable finish than nitro. The thing about nitro, however, is that if you need to fix it, it's easier to fix. When you take a guitar today and it's not a nitro finish, it's a poly finish or something else, it'll most likely chip. Like it'll crack. You know what I mean? Like chunks of it will come off. Whereas nitro will get dinged and it might eventually crack depending on, you know, the conditions, but it won't chip like that in chunks. And anybody that has a fender, like a modern fender, and accidentally chips it, you'll see like there's a big thick, like maybe 2-3 millimeter thick piece of paint that'll come off that thing. So you have a big hole, big divot, hard to fix. Nitro is easy to fix because you can paint nitro over existing nitro and it'll melt the old nitro and basically become one again. So it's a lot easier to fix than the paint chips, the huge paint chips that you have to kind of like drop fill and you can never really do. So the answer is yes and no. Like yes, there is better, harder finishes out there, but they're not as easy to fix when they do chip. Okay guys, just a reminder, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask. Please give me a thumbs up if you don't mind. And the floor is open to everybody here. Nella says you never saw paint flaking off cars from the 50s though, or through the 50s through the 70s. It's a different type of thing. I mean, there's good reasons to use it and there's bad reasons. It all depends what you're looking for, what you want to do. Dan Steely says, who has 2 thumbs and just bought a Telecaster? Dan, do we need to congratulate you? Have you just pulled the trigger on something you want to share with us? Let us know. Just scrolling, guys. So any other questions that I missed? I'm just trying to see here if I'm going back down here. Just checking. No, I think we're good. Nella says there's tons of videos out there showing how to do a drop fill repair on a small guitar defect. If it's small, you can generally achieve good results. If it's big and if it's on like the edge of the guitar, it's usually hard. It's not always easy to match the paint color depending on what you have, especially if it's not one solid color. If it's a sunburst or something like that, very hard. Or some kind of a clear finish, very hard. If you have a white guitar, a black guitar, one color, red, whatever, you can usually get pretty close. Mazzetti wants to know what are some of my favorite presets on my Fractal. Man, that's a question and a half, dude. There's so many. You know how many sounds I have loaded up on my Fractal, dude? Like, too many to even remember. There's actually an update available, a firmware update that I still have to do on my Fractal. So I gotta install that maybe today. But I couldn't tell you what my favorite presets are, man, by heart. There's just too many. And I'm constantly changing them and tweaking them. So it's one of those things where, you know, my favorite patch of last week is not my favorite patch of this week. And I'm constantly downloading new patches and stuff from online. And they do have a community that share patches. And I have almost all my empty patch memory slots filled. I'm running low now. I'm gonna have to start deleting some stuff because I don't have any more place left. Skimrush says I've only been playing my T's ST1 SPR since it arrived. Which when did you get the ST1? Recently? Is that new? Dan says he's got a Player 2 Oxblood limited edition. Hey Dan, that's a nice choice. Oxblood, huh? So something like the old Oxblood Les Paul, Jeff Beck style kind of thing, but in a Telecaster format. That's pretty cool, man. Shane says, favorite bass pedals. I don't really have any pedals for my bass, Shane. I usually just play through my guitar pedals if I really need an effect. Usually I like just to play bass clean. I'll maybe throw in a compressor or something like that, or maybe a little EQ. But beyond that, I don't usually add too many effects on bass, like delay, reverb, or distortion, overdrive. Not really. Sometimes maybe a little overdrive sometimes if I need a little bit more bite. But generally, pretty clean. I don't know about any others here, if they've played with any kind of specific bass pedals or effects. Zarly Z says, Tony, have you ever owned a JCM 900? I have an opportunity to buy a nice one, but I'm not sure if I should wait for an 800 like the one you have. Yeah, the answer is yes. I have a video on that too. It's a very old video. I don't know how many years old it is now. Let me see if I can actually pull it up here. I'm just curious to see when I recorded that video. This was before I even got serious in terms of like seriously making videos on a regular basis for YouTube. I was just like sharing information at that stage. So yeah, I have that. I'll even put the video up. What the hell? The quality's shite on this video. It's 16 years old. 16 years, man. Think about that. And it was a Marshall JCM 900 combo. So here, I'll actually share it with you guys. Hold on. Hold on. It's coming. So here's the video. 16 years old, but still on YouTube. It's got like 130,000. How many views? Over 130K, 130,000 views over that 16 years. So I'm going to answer your question. I would say wait for the JCM 800. Not that the 900 is a bad amp. It's not. But I think the 800 is better. It just sounds better overall to me. The 900 was a little bit more, not aggressive, but not as smooth sounding, I'm going to say. And I know it's funny using the word smooth to describe a JCM 800, but I can't put in any other terms. I think the 900, it's gonna be a better option for you. If I had to do it again, I'd still go for the 800. So Mazzetti says, show me the headstock. You want to show me this headstock? Here. Whoops. Can you see? Bacchus, Live Road, Universe. That's the one. Shane says, thoughts about buying another guitar. Decided to buy pickups instead. Shane, you're talking to the wrong person for that. I will always end up changing pickups on my guitars most of the time. It's very rare. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I've actually slowed down quite a bit with changing pickups. But at least now I know which ones to aim for. And depending on what you're looking for, if they're active or not, there's a lot of choice out there. So yeah, if you like the way the guitar plays, before you get rid of the guitar, if it's just the sound that you don't like, change the pickups. You can get pickups in any flavor these days. So why throw the baby out with the bathwater, you know? That's what I would do. That's what I've been doing. So, okay. Alex wants to know, where is the best place to put a looper pedal in my effects chain? Good question. So the looper, depending on what you want to do, can be placed at the beginning or at the end. So the question is whether or not you want to loop everything, including the effects, or you just want to loop basically the clean signal. So for example, if you put it at the beginning, so it's going to go from your guitar through the looper, the signal is going to be clean, then it's going to go through your other pedals and come out. So you're going to be able to turn on, turn off all of your pedals, and all of your effects will be able, you know, to influence the sound coming out the other side. If you put it at the end, it gives you a slightly different result. So it's really a question of what you want to have. You want more of a clean sound, where you want to be able to turn off, turn on your effects to be able to switch the chain, you know, switch up what you're doing. That's the question. Because a looper, you know, you're going to record a sound, right? If you put it in the beginning, your sound is clean, then the effects get added to it. If it's at the end, you're going through all your effects, and the looper will record the sound with the effects turned on or off, which you can't remove. So if you're going to be changing your sound along the way, you're better off putting it at the beginning. And there's no right and wrong way. It's just a question of preference. Yeah, the JCM 900 is a little bit more high gain. It's a little bit more bitey, I'm going to say. A little bit more, I don't know if the right word is aggressive, but it does have a different feel to it. It's not the same as an 800. I prefer the 800s. I always did. I tried the 9 because I wanted to get a combo amp, a Marshall combo at the time, and I couldn't get the 800 in a combo. I didn't want to have the head in a cabinet. So I ended up getting the combo. And but I sold it. I didn't keep it for that long. I sold it relatively soon afterwards. What do I do with the pickups I remove? I put them into my tickle trunk. I call it the tickle trunk because I have a bin basically where I put in all my stuff that I remove. And there's all kinds. I have all kinds of extra parts. I have pickups. I have pickup rings. I have tuners. I have all kinds of bits and pieces in there. And eventually they end up on another guitar or on a custom build or something like that. I probably have enough leftover parts right now to build a few guitars if I wanted to. And it's great to keep the stuff. Don't throw them out, because just because it didn't work in that particular guitar doesn't mean it won't be a good match for another guitar. Pile-o pickups, exactly, Presley. Always keep stuff, man. You never know when you're going to need it. There's nothing worse than looking for a spring or a pickup spring or a pickup screw, that doesn't fit, and you don't have you have everything else you need except that one screw. It's always good to have backups. Yeah, if you're older like me, you'll get that tickle trunk reference, David, for sure. I think the tickle trunk was always something a little trippy for me when I was watching Mr. Dress Up as a kid. It was a very interesting show. It was I guess, the Canadian version of Mr. Rogers kind of thing. That's how I can put it. Rick, I don't have lace sensors in that trunk. No. I mentioned a couple of times I never really found myself gravitating towards active pickups or noiseless pickups like EMGs or lace sensors or those type of things. So I don't really have any of those. No, not at the moment. But you never know. It could happen. Are you guys looking at picking up anything recent in terms of, we got over like the little period of sales. We got over the Prime Day thing. And I think now the only thing we have to look forward to is going to be like Christmas, probably, where people are going to start, launching new deals and stuff like that, unless there's going to be some kind of a special launch at Sweetwater or something like that, or maybe around NAMM again this year. There's not that many things on the horizon for me that I'm looking at getting. Right now, it's mostly pedals, effects, like multi-effects, that kind of thing, and accessories. I've been getting different things. I have a smaller pedal board that I'm trying to put together just to have a secondary pedal board where I don't want to bring my main one. Little things like that. And I have a really cool reverb pedal that I got recently that I want to show you guys as well. I haven't ever really, I never really wanted to spend money on really expensive reverbs like the Strymons and stuff like that, because I have the TC Electronic pedals that do a good job. They're not that expensive. They're respectable in terms of the sounds that you can get from them. But I got my hands on something recently that I thought was really, really good and not that expensive. And I want to actually share that with you in another upcoming video. That's probably going to be one of my next videos. Plus, I got some really cool tools. So if you guys are interested in like getting some tips in terms of modding your guitars, setting them up properly, I got a couple of tools that I've been eyeballing for a long time that I think are going to be game changers for me. And when I say game changers, it's more, for me, it's more in the setup and being able to consistently set up my guitars with the same type of neck curve or neck relief, the same height on the strings, the same height on the bridge saddles, so that I can consistently get my guitars to feel good, because they don't all feel the same. They have their own unique, let's say, recipe when they're dialed in. And since they're not all exactly the same, they do feel different. But I try to aim to get my setups on my guitar consistent across the board, whether it's a Strat, whether it's a Gibson style guitar or something else. I want my guitars to feel very similar. And I got some really cool tools that I've never had before recently, and I'm going to show you those as well, that really will take the guesswork out of doing something like that. And you can really dial it in to even tighter tolerances to make sure you're getting into that ballpark consistently. So I'm going to show you some of that. I'm going to really show you some of those things. And specifically, if you have a guitar with a Floyd, I don't know how many of you have at least one guitar with a Floyd. There's a special tool that I finally got that I've been trying to get my hands on for a while and just never got around to it, that will help you dial in the intonation on a Floyd, which is always such a pain in the butt. This tool makes it a lot easier. So I'll be shooting some of those videos for you guys and sharing some of those along the way. So if you guys are interested in taking a look at those, I think you're going to enjoy them. Shane, thank you for stopping in, buddy. Sorry to hear you got to go to work, but somebody's got to pay those bills. If you want guitars to come in, you got to work, man. Don't work too hard, dude. Rick says, did you model your rock and roll persona after Ernie Combs? What do you mean by rock and roll persona? I'm not sure what you mean by that. You might have to clarify. So NFM says, I have what I need, but I'm gassing for a Gibson ES 345. Dark walnut with gold hardware. Yeah. A 345. Yeah. Those are nice guitars, man. I saw a 335 locally with gold hardware. It's been sitting there for a while in my area. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's just the price. It doesn't seem extreme. Maybe it's the gold hardware. Not everybody likes gold hardware. You got to remember that the gold hardware tarnishes very quickly. Although on my 335, you know, the bridge tailpiece is aluminum, and it tarnished like immediately. But it goes well with the look of the guitar. The only thing I wish that guitar had was these raw nickel covers. Then it would look really cool. It has the chrome covers, but I don't want to change the pickups on that guitar. I like the pickups, it's just the covers I would maybe change eventually. Jeff says, hi Tony, I sold all my Gibson Les Pauls recently. I kept my Eastman, the SB59V. I'm now gassing for a Maybach Lester 69. Have you tried one? Well, Eastman's yes, the Maybach no. I've looked at them. They look like really, really cool guitars. I just wish they weren't so expensive. So what happened with the Gibson Purge? You got fed up with Gibson? You just weren't happy with them? What's the story? Something major must have happened to you, Jeff, to decide to just get rid of all your Gibsons like that all in one shot. Talk to us, dude. Rob says, I'm looking to replace my missing bass. Looking at a classic vibe and swapping a Fender high mass bridge. The classic vibe basses look good. I tried one recently. I was in the shop and just for fun, I grabbed one off the wall. They play really nice. I think it's a good choice if you're not, maybe not, it's not your primary guitar, but you can get it to sound amazing. Dave says, D. Smith says, it's a sad day when nothing makes me have to want it. I'm content with what I have now, and my wife is too. And that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. D, if your wife's standing behind you with a rolling pin, just do this, man. This is the universal symbol of I'm being held against my wishes. We'll come in and help you. I'm just joking, but it sounds like you're saying that because your wife is watching you, behind you. I'm happy, and my wife is too. But I understand what you're saying, dude. I feel like that too every time I go into a music store. I look and I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm like, again, there's nothing that popped out. But maybe that's a good thing, because the last time that happened and something popped out, I walked out of the guitar shop with a new guitar I wasn't expecting to buy. So perhaps it is better. But it just means you're getting to that stage in your life right now where you made the right choices. And the guitars that you have are keeping you happy. And there's nothing wrong with that, man. So Dan Steely says Eastman AF 372 is the last guitar. Does that mean it's the last guitar you bought or the last guitar you're gonna buy, Dan? And Bill says, I saved up my money for a couple of years and just got the Heritage H555 for a good deal. Awesome guitar. I did hear recently, guys, that brings up another point, that the vintage guitar brand is going away. Did you guys hear this? Or am I just dreaming? I'm pretty sure I heard someone mention that that brand is somehow going away now. I'm going to actually go to, hold on. Go to the website. And I always thought that like it was a big mistake for them to call their guitars vintage guitars, because every time you're looking and you type in vintage guitars, you don't go to the website or the company. You just get a whole bunch of vintage guitars that pop up. So that can't be... So you got to type in like vintage guitar brand to actually get it to pop up, which is dumb from a marketing perspective. You don't want that. That's probably why they're not selling any guitars. Okay, well the website is still up, but I could have sworn that I heard something about them going away. I don't know. Let me see here. There's no news here, so maybe I'm mistaken. But they make pretty cool guitars, and I have a really nice. It's a 335 copy, and I don't know if they actually do they have them here. I don't know what the model is on those guitars nowadays. Gotta find them. The 500s, yeah, I think it's the 500s here. So I have one of these. Well, not, it's actually not these guitars. It's an earlier version. These are the re-released versions. I have the original ones. The re-released versions are slightly different. They have the offset horns here, where mine are not. They look more, and these are a little bit narrower. The other ones, the one I have, it looks more like a Gibson 335. And it's a really solid guitar. I bought it and I had it for a long time. I still have that guitar. But to be honest, I don't really play it all that much anymore. And I've been thinking about maybe selling it. I've upgraded the pickups on it, and it plays really well. It sounds solid. I think I even did a review shootout on a couple of these semi-hollows that I had. It's probably in my videos, and that was one of them. And unplugged, it sounds really good, but I don't play it much anymore. So you can still get them. the VSA 500s. I don't know how much they're actually selling for right now, these reissues. Let me see if I can actually get a price on these. I'm curious to see how much they're selling for. Price. Actually, I don't want to do it this way. Let's do Google. Here we go. Okay, so the 500s. Could that be right? Like $1,000? No, that can't be right. On Reverb, they're going for about 500, but I see these guys selling them for more. It's funny because they have this one too. I didn't know they had one of these. These are the, it's kind of like the Dave Grohl model. Hey, that's pretty cool. 549 pounds. Cool guitar, I like it. And the actual headstock is not as huge and bulky like the Dave Grohl model is. Interesting. And I like the back too. So you learned something new. And I shouldn't have looked at that because now I'm going to be considering like maybe getting one of those or something. Just looking at the comments here. Alex says he likes those vintage guitars. That was a cool brand. Some of them weighed a lot, but they're a little heavy. Well, I mean, the one I had didn't weigh a lot, but it's a semi-hollow, so maybe the other ones, the solid body ones did. Jeff wants to know. He says, "Yes, Tony, the JHS, John Hornby skewers are closing the business down. They own and distribute the brand. Family business winding down." So it is true. Okay, then, but it's not mentioned on the website. I wonder if somebody else won't eventually buy the brand and continue it. Rick says, Tony, my problem with vintage brand basses is that while they play decently, they tend to be boat anchors. Again, I don't know that much about the basses. I haven't tried one. The only one I could talk about is the actual semi-hollow that I have, which is basically in line with the weight of my other semi-hollow guitars, including the Gibson. And the shootout I did, if I remember correctly, was my Gibson 335, the Epiphone 335, and the vintage. And that was, how long ago was that, man? I'm amazed every time I think about stuff like this because I've made so many videos over the years and I lose track of how many there are. But every time I start talking about something new, a new topic, I'm like, yeah, I made a video on that. Right now, I think there's over 700 videos in my archive, so feel free to explore. But I don't remember what that video was called. Man. I'll have to find it. Alex says, Tony, get yourself a Firefly or Harley Benton. You'll never look back. Really? Harley Benton, I agree. They make good guitars. I have a few Harley Bentons already. I've had a couple already. I still have a few. I have at least 3 Harley Bentons that I still own. I had the Harley Benton Gold Top, which was a good guitar as well. And I would love to get the new Harley Benton, those 80s style guitars that they came out with. They kind of look like the Kramer 80s style guitars, or the Charvels with the one humbucker and the Floyd. I think they're all sold out or they're back ordered, so there's none in stock. But I'd like to get one of those eventually, try those out. So it is true. So maybe at the end of the day, somebody else might actually end up buying them. That happens a lot. When the brand is still good, I don't see why somebody else wouldn't step in and snag them up. So who knows? Maybe Gibson will buy them since they bought Mesa Boogie. Why not? Why not get into the guitar business? It wouldn't surprise me, you know. Don't mind me, guys. I'm just trying to scroll to find that video. I think it's here somewhere. I just can't seem to find it. It's anyways, I'll find it eventually. Anybody ever play a Sire or Sear? How do you pronounce it? Sire? Sear? Sire, I guess. It's funny, I've actually contacted that company multiple times because I wanted to get a guitar from them to review. They responded, but not really. And it's like, I hate when people answer an email, but don't really answer an email, and then like ask another question, and then you answer that question, they never respond. So I just dropped it. I'm like, forget it. Eventually, if I do get my hands on one, it's fine. But I'm not like itching to get one. They're decent guitars. They look like they're solid guitars, the ones that I've seen. This is why I wanted to eventually get one to try, because I don't really see them in stores. But most people that have them like them. Patrick says the neck on those 80s Harley Bentons are a big hit. Do you have one, Patrick? Or do you know somebody who has one of those? I'm curious. This is why I wanted to try them. It's really for the neck. And I can see why they're hot sellers, man. To get something like that with the same type of features, like in a Charvel or something, it's going to be a lot more expensive. They're still quite affordable. I still don't know how the tariffs and all that kind of stuff is going to affect the final price. This is the thing. They're like, it's still up in the air. I don't know what's going to happen. But if things are not going to be crazy and there's not going to be huge delays, when they do get back in stock, I'd like to get one. Maybe I'll just wait it out. It'll probably only be around Christmas, as far as I can tell. So it might be a little while. Unless some of you out there already got lucky enough to grab one, maybe you already have one, or you're thinking about getting one. But so far, I don't know anybody who has one. And by the way, guys, I had mentioned in a previous video that, you know, as you saw at the beginning of this video, the video is sponsored by THX, or sorry, THU. I apologize. I'm thinking THX because we were talking about movies before. THU Overloud, which is a great software to use if you're looking at possibly just getting some great emulations, amp emulations, and running them right off your computer. We are going to have one of the creators of THU Overloud on the show. I've been talking with him for a while, and we're just trying to figure out the best time to do it. He is located in Italy, so it's a little bit more difficult to be able to synchronize our schedules. But we're working on it, and we'll have him on the show. So if any of you, are interested in that, or maybe you are running THU already and you have some questions, there's a recent update that was put out, and they have some great features and amazing sounds. My only issue is that when talking to him, I wanted to be able to actually play the sounds from the software while we're doing the show. And unfortunately, it's not that easy because, yes, you can play the software through your regular computer, but the software that we're using to stream doesn't always allow the sound to come in from the software to go through the live stream. And there is ways to sort of circumvent all that stuff, but then what ends up happening is you get, because of it's a software type of thing, it's kind of like a virtual plugin or a virtual patch. It causes delay. So it doesn't work very well when you have to use a third-party software to be able to get it into the streaming platform. And because of that, it's not that convenient because I'll be playing and I'll be hearing it delayed. There'll be latency because of it. That's not the best way to do it. So I'm trying to figure it out, but it's not that easy to do. So until I can iron those things out, I'm kind of like waiting to get Thomas on the show. But I would really like him to come on the show and explain like all the latest stuff that they've come up with and how they create this amazing software. A lot of people use it and love it, and I've been using it here on my computer and as a plug-in to Logic when I record stuff, and it's great. So I just have to figure out why within the streaming software you get latency like that. If anybody knows, if anybody's doing it, let me know. I'd be very interested in finding out. Rob says, whenever I hear Harley Benton, I think of the song Who Could Forget, the Bullock Brothers, Harley David. Alex says, I had the Harley Benton Brian May, very cool switching, but somehow it didn't work for me. Rick says, Fender would buy vintage with the intention of to shelf it. I don't know, would they? I'm not sure. Maybe. Dan Steely says, I'm all in on Epiphones with custom buckers. And Rick says, yes, you need more guests. Hey, Rick, maybe I'll invite some of you guys. Maybe we'll do a special Addicted to Gear multi-guest show where actually, maybe some of you might, maybe we'll run a contest. We'll see like, okay, maybe I'll pick 3 or 4 of you guys and you have an opportunity to come on the show. What would you guys think about that? Maybe we can have an internal discussion amongst ourselves. That might be something cool. And get to talk to you guys face to face. Alex says your Studio 800 looks very cool behind you, Tony. That stack. Yeah. Yeah, I like it. The 2x12 cabinet that it's sitting on has vintage, V-type Celestion speakers. They sound pretty good. But I have to say the other cabinet, the 4x12 cabinet with the Celestion 65s, the vintage ones, sounds better. Panel discussion sounds cool. Okay, so let's do it. Rick says, yeah, it's called Zoom. Yeah, I know. So maybe we do that. How do we run a contest? How do we pick 3 or 4 people to be on the show? I don't want to be mean and just, play favorites. So it's got to be fair. Let me know what you guys think. Well, we'll think about it and we'll come back with an idea maybe next week. And I'll run some kind of a contest. Pick some winners. But it's got to be something good. Can't be that easy. Let me sleep on that and get back to you. Okay, guys? But something, we have to think of something where you got to do something to be on the show. Maybe make a video. Maybe explain why you want to be on the show. Something along those lines. Maybe post it on YouTube. And then we pick a winner. Alex says one of the regulars should be doing it. I'd love to chime in. I'm an old guy though. It doesn't matter. Age is not an issue. It's the topics of conversation. All right, let me think of that. I'll think of a way we can pick out a couple of winners. Ian's Guitar Shack says, I have one Harley Benton SC. Looks like an LTE EC1000. And then later on he says it has a Floyd Rose 1000 on it. Dan says we're all winners. What other guitar would you compare vintage with? I mean, they have a lot of, you know, kind of like, I'm not going to call them knockoff guitars. I don't like to use the word knockoff. I tend to use the word homage, like the watches, where, you know, it looks like a Rolex, but it's not a Rolex type of thing. They have the same thing where it looks like a Les Paul, but it's not a Les Paul. As you saw, they have the 335 versions, the Les Paul style guitars, even the Dave Grohl model, which I didn't even see before. I mean, they compare, I would say they can, in terms of quality, they could probably compare with, you know, maybe the Epiphone line, maybe just a little bit lower, below the Epiphone line, maybe. I haven't tried the new stuff, so I can't really compare. The one I have is an old guitar, an older model, and it plays really well. I played it against the Epiphone 335, and I felt like the vintage one was more alive. When I played it unplugged, it was definitely brighter. I wish I could find that video. I would share it with you guys. Ah, here it is. Found it. Yes. So that guitar was, that video was, how old? I made that video, how many years ago now? Let me see. That video came out in 6 years ago. So actually, yeah, sorry, I was, hold on. Here, I'll take that video and share it with you guys. So actually, this is not the one. It's not the right one anyways. This is one I did where I compared an early Epiphone with a 335. But I did another one after that where I compared all three. Sorry, wrong video. But I mean, you can still watch that and get an idea. That was the Epiphone was a friend of mine's Epiphone. And eventually I got another Epiphone 335, which was the Inspired By model. And that's where I did the video comparing all three. Okay, guys, I'm gonna let you guys go because I've been talking, how much time now? An hour and 43 minutes, longer than I should. I want to keep some for the next show. I appreciate you guys joining today and asking some really good questions. I had a good time answering them. Hope you guys had some fun. If you guys have any other questions after we leave the show, post them in the comments or send them to me by email. I'm always happy to give more feedback after the fact. And I'll think about how we can do a group chat. A group chat, I think that would be something fun to do with you guys. Get some good back and forth. I'll sleep on that. Maybe I'll make a video announcing how you can participate. And we can let it run. And then we can pick a couple of winners. Sounds like fun to me. Okay, guys, have a great Sunday. Enjoy your day. Do something cool. Practice something new. Learn a new song. Maybe pull out that old dusty pedal you haven't tried in a long time and, you know, plug it in and just get the lead out, so to speak. All right. Thank you for coming to the show. I appreciate all your comments. Give us a thumbs up on the way out if you don't mind. And please tune in for the next one. And stay tuned for that announcement. I'd love to see you guys and talk to you guys in person firsthand. All right? Okay, guys. Rock on, buddies. See you soon.